You're listening to the ReachCast show, your weekly stop for the latest and greatest in the Planetside 2 universe and its community.
What's up, everybody? We're doing it live. What the F? Alright, well, anyways, what's up, everybody? It is February 10th. You're listening to episode 72 of the ReachCast show. Proud members of the Araxis Global Network and podcast networks. I'm your host, Torkz. With me this week is Noxx.
Hello.
Mr. Deringer.
What's up,
Oh, you were supposed to call him Danger.
Danger?
Yeah, Mr. Danger.
Danger.
And our special guest this week is Mr. David, a.k.a. Malorn. Or Dave, I should say. What's going on, man?
Hey, how you guys doing?
Malorn here is with SOE. He'll tell us all about himself and his special skills, abilities, and shark wrestling here in just a minute, the next segment. But this week we are brought to you by single-use digital camos, 1 hour, 50% XP buffs, and great listeners like you. And you can go and support the show tab, ReachCast.com. We play with DPSO, Outfit X, and I don't know, who'd you play with this week, Tom?
666X, some random puppies.
Cool. I play with Noxx's Dream Squad. Also one night. So this week we have Love Bullets and World Domination Series. Also Resource Revamp with Malorn here. He's going to talk a little bit about that later on. That being said, we are going to get to Dev Interrogation, I guess.
Listen. You are going to tell us everything we want to know.
Okay.
Now you are involved in the ReachCast interrogations.
Man, every week. All right. Tell us a little bit about yourself, Malorn, and kind of how you started in gaming, what brought you to SOE, what you do at SOE, and then your special skill. Like last week, it was juggling? No, that was circus the week before that.
No, last week was laser tag.
Laser tag.
Wow. Oh, you're just going to want to know everything, huh?
Yeah. Everything. Top to bottom.
Well, I work as a systems designer and a level designer, a part-time level designer, for SOE on Planetside 2. I've been there about 1.5 years now, and I started, my career actually started doing something completely different. I was in Seattle working for Microsoft, working on Windows Vista 7, and recently Windows 8. And then after the end of Windows 8, I got kind of an offer I couldn't refuse, an opportunity to come and help shape Planetside 2. And so I did exactly that, dropped everything, came down to San Diego, and here I am. As for my skills, oh man.
Special skills, like bow staff?
Skills.
Hacking.
Yeah, size. I kind of like size better than bow staff. It's just more personal preference, I guess.
You're able to step over tall midgets?
I can definitely step over tall midgets. I don't know if you've seen some of the Friday Night Ops or the picture shoot we did recently. I'm pretty tall in the office. There's I think one of the coders is as tall as I am, but everyone else is like a midget to me.
Do you hit your head on the exit signs?
I hit my head on a lot of things. The world is not made for someone of my height.
I remember meeting you at Live. I'm not a small guy either, about 6'2", 6'2 and a half, whatever, but I remember seeing you, I looked up at you, I was like, good Lord, this guy's a giant. It's blown away. And then I remember asking, like, what shirt size do you wear? You're like, I think I wear like a 4X. Do you have that shirt? I'm like, shit, I don't know. Maybe. So we're looking for one. Eventually found one, but it was crazy, man. You definitely surprised me when I first met you at Live. It's nuts. Big boy.
Yeah, we were joking at the shoot that I was kind of like that poster of Planetside where you see like the NC and the VS, and then behind him is the big TR Max with the chain guns. I was like, that's kind of me. I'm the Max with the chain guns, only I'm somehow crammed into a light assault suit.
Yeah, that sheet was pretty funny, I have to admit. yours following right after Clegg's, and Clegg doing like whatever dance that was with his.
Yeah.
It was entertaining, if nothing else. It was pretty. Let's tell you, getting a good chuckle out of
You know, with
Well, I
that,
tried to.
I've seen
I
a ton
tried
of requests for flannel camo now.
Yeah.
that. Okay, well,
Because
I
of
can tell
Clegg
you,
works flannel.
So behind the scenes on that shoot here, we were walking over to one of the other buildings to do it. Clegg was talking about how clothes in high school, and then later he puts on a flannel. So I found some irony in that. And then while we were doing the shoot, we all got up there. We had no idea what to say. And then Clegg started kind of ad-libbing his NC thing. And then I'm trying to think, like, what would a TR say? Like, a TR is a serious business. They're not going to, like, goof around. So I tried to be as serious business as I can. If you've seen me before, you know that's a real stretch for me. It's hard for me to be all serious.
yeah.
But I managed to pull it off. And,
Such a jovial guy. I just figured that was
yeah, I mean, all the time.
came so naturally to you. I figured Clegg would be wearing like an American flag around his shoulders. Like,
No, that'd probably be more like me.
that's true. All right. Well, anything else, man? You get any on the weekends? Do you like mentor kids in basketball or something and dunk on them, or
No, not like that. Those kind of people make me feel terrible about myself.
All right.
It's like subscribing to Russell Wilson's Twitter. Like, you'll just feel like a terrible person once you see all the things that he does.
Yeah.
Do you maybe moonlight as the pole that holds up the basketball hoop for underprivileged children?
You know, that might be a good opportunity for me. I should look into that.
Seems so such a good fit. All right. With that being said,
You hear it again.
That's what happens when you do live. All right. The next off is patch notes.
I'm going to get these mosquitoes in the air and rain down some hellfires on those fools. Oh no! What the f***? I should have listened to the ReachCast patch notes.
Little Timmy.
All right, just one quick patch to talk about this past week. Not too much dropped with it. Let's see. Few known issues that are still going on. Cert reimbursement is still under the works. Excuse me, and they're still working on fixing a server crash that happens occasionally. Oh, and it's still happening for sure. We were right in the middle of capping Camp Watterson last night on Connery when, bam, all of Indar went down. And then it was a mad rush to get back to Camp Connery for a 50-point WDS cap. In the depot, new Sundra cosmetics, Galaxy cosmetics, and as always, new Player Studio items are released every week now. With performance, we have an optimization pass for Liberator and its attachment, as well as for the Lightning and its attachments. Next up, the voice chat upgrade, improved audio quality, reduced CPU usage, and reduced audio latency. You guys got anything to say about this? Have you used the new chat once it switched over? I've spent most of my time in TeamSpeak this past week.
I turned it on, and then I promptly turned it off because I remember why I turned it off in the first place.
Turned it on and heard somebody talking about how big Malorn was. I was like, damn. All right. Shut it back off. I did that.
I keep mine on all the time, but like I said, I spent a lot of time.
Oh
in
my
TeamSpeak
god.
this week.
It was... Normally I keep it on, and then I was in this base, and it was just unbearable, the people talking. I couldn't do it.
I turned it on to actually literally turn it on to check this, whatever the lag or whatever, and I heard some dude playing dubstep over the warp gate. I was like, F this.
Well, you don't use it in the warp gate. You wait until you're out in the field.
I was capping a base, and it was just like people... You know how like people enjoy sounding stupid and talking with like a stereotypical like idiot voice?
Welcome to the podcast.
Well, funny you say that.
I mean,
'cause
I'm
was
trying to find like... They're all trying to sound mentally retarded, and it was...
That's definitely not, no.
It was at
Let's
least...
rephrase that.
I was going to say...
That's what it was. They were at least five people were just going on like that for at least 20 minutes, and I was like, oh my god, this has to stop, and I just turned it off.
It was probably the same people I ran into at Vanu Archives. They sounded more like Kermit the Frog than someone mentally retarded. But he kept saying, I need a medic. Something ridiculous like that.
Yeah.
The
Oh,
when you play Malorn, do you play with procs on?
Do I play with what on?
Proximity chat.
Prox chat. No, I mute that.
See? Honest answers. Goodness. So when you were going to toe the line, be like, yeah, Prox chat's great. It's so informative.
I never turn
I
it
would
off.
like to play with Prox chat, but I mean, I think that some people would tell me some important things if I had it, but I think there's just enough people that like abuse it and spam it that it's just and I don't want to take the time to mute them, but you know, that's my personal preference.
In the chat, Mittens for Kitten says Prox is only for screaming for people to res you. It sounds about right.
Ammo!
And dubstep.
And dubstep.
Well, I when I did use Prox, I'd use it to tell people to like get out of my way when I'm in the tank because I don't have a horn on the tank, and I'm like, just move, get out of the way so I don't have to run you over.
So what you're trying to say is that you introduced horns to the game so you wouldn't have to use Prox chat.
Not me, but I think horns certainly reduced my need for Prox chat. Although when I roll up in a harasser next to a guy and I just keep spamming my horn, they just don't seem to figure it out. Like, I want you to get in. And, you know, I don't know, maybe I'm at a loss there, but I at least try, like, just roll up and just honk this, mash that horn, and think maybe, hey, look, there's a harasser with an open spot and a chain gun on it. Hey, maybe that'd be fun.
Oh, I'll stop my Sunderer for people that are running to let them get in, and they just run right by without even thinking about it.
You know, it's not a big thing, but something that'd be awesome to see in the game is like, I don't know how to explain this. If somebody does it like in say chat instead of just yell or anything else, the say chat would actually pop up like in a bubble above the person's character.
Like, wow,
get the F in my harasser or whatever.
Well, you need the old Planetside 1 voiceover, I need a gunner.
Oh, that works too,
Yeah, absolutely.
That's one a lot of people have been clamoring for a long time.
It would be nice to have a more comprehensive voice pack. I would agree with that one.
In Planetside 1, it was huge. There was so much that you could say.
I remember listening through somebody put it up on Planetside Universe like a while back, the whole voice pack for all the outfits or all the factions. Mm-hmm. And I listened through, I was like, good lord, there was a lot of cues.
I will destroy their medical terminals.
The problem was remembering them all. Because there were so many. There was a lot of pressing the V key.
Yeah. V1, V2, V3, and V4. Those are the only ones I use. I don't even know what the others are.
Oh, you don't have you don't use sorry that much or anything like that?
There's a sorry?
Yeah, it's like V9 or something.
Yeah, apparently you don't use it.
If I TK someone, I usually just whisper them.
Sorry, and I kind of like mash that every time I accidentally kill somebody.
Yeah, I've run a lot of people over with the Vanguard, so I do that a lot. So I feel bad.
Well, I don't feel bad for driving over people, only shooting them.
Yeah, if they run in front of you, it's their own fault.
Nice.
It's not like you can't. Here it comes.
Well, they probably don't have any sounds on because they only know how to turn all their sounds off, not just Prox chat.
That's I love your sound effect there. I'm gonna pull that out later. It's your car sound effect.
All right, let's just finish up with bug fixes. Healing and repair service ribbons should be functioning again. Some other client crashes with Twitch were fixed. A big one with the issue with the Prowler, where it appears to be firing 3 rounds at range, but is only firing 1, was fixed, as well as a couple other little things that were fixed as well. And that wraps up the February 5th patch. Anything else you guys have to add before we move on to community briefing, and what a community briefing it is?
Yeah, let's knock out all the quick stuff so Malorn can talk about the fun shit.
Should just put him first.
All right, community briefing.
Attention, soldiers! Get your bus in here for this week's community briefing.
All right, before we get into our community briefing stuff, let's, Malorn, why don't you tell us a little bit about your vision and what's so far been accepted maybe by SOE for resource revamp and maybe where it might be going in the future?
Oh, vision. Well, I think the main, I think the big vision is we want a system that adds depth to the game, like strategic depth, and that also allows players to kind of do what they want and play the way they want to play, but still allow for targeted denial and all the strategy and depth that goes with that. Because to me, the whole reason you have a resource system is because they can be taken away, or because you're fighting over them, or they're a reason to fight. They're an objective to fight for. And in order for that to really work, it has to, they have to mean something. They have to be important. And one of the ways something is important, I think probably the most important way that something is important is when you don't have it, when it's missing. A lot of the resource revamp is kind of focused around how can we do that sort of targeted denial without making the day-to-day fighting experience just suck. Like, oh, we don't have resources, we're done. And sort of compare that to current resource system where that happens kind of frequently for a lot of people. I've talked to outfit leaders before who go to warp gates and then have their guys go sit in a warp gate for a tick, then warp to another continent and sit in a warp gate for that tick, and then they have like this cycle that they'll go through and hit all the warp gates right at the tick times just to get all the resources they have from those continents. Mm-hmm. And that's the kind of thing that just it really shouldn't be necessary to do something like that. And the current system is very much tied to the continent. So as you get more territory in a continent, you just keep getting more resources. So it's kind of like a drop in the bucket when you get more resources, you don't have it. And if you don't have resources, getting one more territory is, a drop in the bucket. So in either case, you don't see any real significant effects from one capture to the next, which kind of really degrades the value of the resources and just makes it more or less just frustrating to players. And we also have some quirkiness, like with having both acquisition timers and resources. So you have two gates on your vehicles, for example, when really only one makes sense, either acquisition timer or resources. But having both is kind of unintuitive, I would say.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
You're going to get rid of acquisition timers on vehicles?
Well, that is the vision there, is to get rid of the acquisition timers in favor of just using resources. So if you have the resources to pull 3 tanks in a row, you can pull 3 tanks in a row. And there's no waiting in between there. And that's part of giving the players the freedom to play how they want to play, because not everyone wants to be the guy that I drive a Lightning for 5 minutes, and then I switch to a Prowler for 5 minutes, and then I switch to a Mosquito, and then I switch to a Liberator, and then I might hop over into a Sunday. It's kind of, that favors someone who likes diversity, but someone who just wants to be the tank driver, or someone who just wants to be the max guy in the max, or the guy in the tank, that really just doesn't go very well.
Some people like to specialize and stick with their specialty.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Specialization. So the new system is kind of focused around helping the guys who want to specialize more. But for the folks that enjoy the diversity that they have now, that's probably going to be reduced as a result of the change.
Yeah, that'll be good. I think I totally agree with the fact that a lot of people are having to use. I mean, I speak for myself. I use Warpgate ticks quite frequently to get enough stuff up, pull vanguards, stuff such as that. So it'd be nice to get back to that. Not to go too much in detail, it's kind of up to you. But what other kind of pieces are we looking at for the resource revamp? Maybe different mechanics that might be built around specific bases or anything else. I know that ants won't be in the first revision. Is that correct?
Right. So I can tell you just a little bit about the general overview. Is the first phase, which is the one that's published on the roadmap, is all about kind of rebalancing and realigning the resource mechanic itself and how you get resources. So that would involve around unifying all the resources into a single currency, making the resource income based on the facility you're at, and rebalancing all the costs associated with it. So our goal there is get it into that specialization role where you can kind of pull what you want to pull and move things over to a more immediate resource use as opposed to having like an inventory you can stock up. Like, for example, you have 40 C4 in your inventory and someone takes away the resources that allow you to get C4, like, you're completely unaffected by that for hours even that go by. So any strategic depth that's a result of, hey, let's go deprive them of their resources so we don't have to deal with so much C4 or so many tanks. I mean, that just doesn't work in our game. It's resource denial has really never worked in Planetside 2 because of things like inventory and because of things like the continental income, which makes it very hard to go after a specific resource to deny, because you have to deny it for hours on end before you really start feeling the effects. And even then, they can just do what we just talked about before, just go to other continents and get resource fixed. come back. So it's something that's easy to evade. It's something that has no immediate noticing effect. So that's really unfortunate. We tried many times during the beta to try to deny resources, like go take those territories all around the warp gate, cut off that warp gate, and you do it for about 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes. They start responding, and then after 15 minutes, you got a whole Zerg knocking at your door. And what did you accomplish in that time? Well, you managed to lose the crown and Alatum and everything else important while your guys were sitting around trying to do resource denial for no gain.
I didn't know. I looked at the post somewhat. Something I didn't see answered that I was kind of wondering about is with the move to a single resource system. What kind of are they still looking at? Kind of what benefits continent capture would be? Like, right now it's like 10%.
Yeah, we'd likely be changing the continent capture to have something like a resource discount on certain types of things. So instead of like mechanized resource 10%, you might have, ground vehicle 10% reduction, something like that. So you'd have like a comparable benefit, but the benefits are also something we want to kind of take a look at in general and find some more meaningful benefits to having a continent locked.
Okay. Mark, Tom, you got anything else for
No,
him?
not really.
At least on that.
I'm looking forward to it. Is that good enough?
That's good enough, I guess.
See, right now I'm one of the people who thinks that there's just too many resources out there. I never run out of them, and that they're kind of worthless. So I'm excited to see any kind of change that makes them feel more worthwhile, or something I actually am earning and using, and got to be careful when I use them and stuff like that. So.
Yeah. The second phase is all about adding in that power mechanic, which is the first major step that would change the depth of the game and give you new strategies. And the idea around that is kind of similar to Planetside, the original, where you had an ant silo and you get power up in a warp gate, and you drive the vehicle into the base, and you power up the base, and then there were things that drain the power. So in this case, what drains the power is basically supplying soldiers. So the base supplies you with your resources, so you get it indirectly through the base. And then as the minutes go by of many players being supplied, it will slowly drain. And the more players, the faster it drains. So it's intended to be a mechanic that if you're having a small fight, like you're a squad on squad sort of situation, that you're not having to worry about power all the time. And to make that happen, we're hooking up another kind of a strategic element where the warp gate actually provides power to any connected base through the lattice. So if your base is connected to the lattice, it's getting power income that's more than enough to compensate for the drain that you're receiving. So it's basically staying full power the whole time. And it's only when you start getting larger forces and big Zergs moving through that you start to see significant power drain just from usage. And then the other aspect of that is, once you start getting enough people to drain, then this resource mechanic becomes a lot more important. And you start having to get power into the base to sustain the army that you have, drawing from it. So it's kind of like, you think of it as almost like a kind of a indirect baggage chain.
Yeah, I get what you're saying, like a resource availability. Yeah. So more of attrition to a certain extent. If you can run them out, then you can run out. If you can sustain cutting off their supply trains, then you can run them out of resources in time.
Right. But it's a local denial. It's not you're running them out of resources all over the continent. You're just running them out of resources at that fight. And if they have to leave the fight to go get resources elsewhere, well, those are guys no longer in the fight. So that's a win for you there too. But then if they lose and then fall back to the next base, you're not screwed on resources. You are now at a new base that's all full up on power that you can then draw for more resources again, and the cycle repeats. So it's sort of like it's an attrition mechanic, but it's also something to give vehicle drivers objectives. And that's something that, pilots have wanted, tank drivers have wanted. You roll up on a base. What do? You kind of sit on a hill and lock down your prowler, and you find your best angle on that spawn room and try to get whatever kills you can before the base caps. So,
pretty much.
And then redeploy before they can kill you.
Yeah. And then we have, walls on the bases and new ways to kind of shield them from tanks. So you have even less and less things to do there during that phase of a conquest. And so your only really other option is go find a different fight or get out of your tank and go ground pound it. So, this presents another option for them, which is you can go escort power vehicles, you can go hunting for them. You can kind of guard the silo where they might bring power in. There's different things there, but the objectives would be potentially away from the facility. So you could have objectives happening out in the open terrain around the facility. You could have the terrain in between the facilities or places that you generally would just almost never have a fight because it's some remote area of Araxis that just happens to be very lucrative in resource spawns that appear out there. So that's really the important part of the whole convoy or harvesting mechanic, where the vehicle with the ant module has to go out and get the resources and bring it back. And the idea is to make that a mobile objective, like a payload type gameplay style, where, okay, you've got to get your thing in there or you're going to lose the resources. And you might lose the base, or your army might run out of steam or something like that. It's a mechanic that can work both ways. Attackers can go after the defenders' stuff, but the attackers are also going to be supplied, which means the defenders can use aircraft or other sort of behind the lines activities to try to disrupt their resource chain on that front.
Interesting. So the lattice will supply its own passive generation, but it won't be enough to sustain a large force.
Right.
So you'll have to use
inflow and outflow. You've got a little bit of power coming in from the warp gate, and you've got a little bit of power going away for small groups of friendlies being supplied. But as more friendlies get supplied, the power drain increases, and then it's no longer net zero, starts going down. And then you start needing to worry more about power.
What's a large force when you say large force? How many players?
I'm thinking like platoon or bigger. That's what I would call a large force. I would say a couple squads is probably where it starts to be at, or like 3 squads or so is probably where it starts to get.
Do you think is it something in your mind that might help with the zerging?
Yes, absolutely. That is another goal of it, is to provide some more trade-offs between running as a large group and running as a small group. And that's also just a risk versus reward payout. Because if you're in a small group by yourself, you're at more risk of losing your tank, losing your stuff. And if you come across a larger group, they're going to have more hardware with them, more stuff to take out your stuff. And it's meant to be somewhat of a counterbalance to that, where if you want to run with a big group, you're going to have to deal with the resource mechanic. And you're more susceptible to being denied. And if you run in a small group, you're less susceptible to being denied, and you have a little bit more free access to resources. But it also means you run the risk of more easily losing them too. Like if you're a tank in a big Zerg, your chances of dying with that tank are much lower than if you were a tank driving all by its lonesome out in the wilderness until a random ESF spots you and says, "Hey, free kill."
Yeah, game over.
That's the kind of the trade-off we're talking about. That if the guy decides to run by himself and take that risk, he's at least going to get some resource compensation, and that he's not going to be completely resource starved if he happens to lose his tank and go back and have to get another one.
Yeah, so interesting. We were talking about kind of having the availability to take an ant, to kind of explain what maybe some of the PS2 people don't understand what the concept of an ant is, and where you would power up and how you provide these resources to these advanced bases. Where would you power up an ant, and how? And it's, from my understanding, an ant would be just an add-on for the Sunday at the current iteration. Is that right?
Yes. So think of the ant module of a Sunderer, sort of like a harvester from Command & Conquer. Oh, you go out, you harvest the crystals, you bring them back to your base.
Tiberium,
yeah. We'll just change the name to Araxium, and we'll make it purple instead of green.
Perfect.
So, you know how we had like snowmen spawning in various parts of Esamir people would kill?
Mm-hmm.
The running idea is you do something like that with sort of like these crystal deposits that you could actually harvest with the ant module. And you go up and you deploy near the crystal, and it starts sucking the power out of the crystal. And eventually you can deplete, or you could have crystals of different abundances, and they would spawn and respawn after they're deprived. So the idea there is that you're not always getting the power from the same location, and that the spawn and respawn rates could help drive combat to more remote areas. But the idea is we really want to try to keep the fighting on the front line. We don't want to have you like driving all the way back to middle of nowhere behind your lines to power up your Sunday and drive it back to the front. We want to keep it all on the front line, so there's much more likelihood of action.
Okay.
Think you should make a mini game out of it and have a little claw where you can grab the resources.
And if you miss, you lose your quarter. What?
And just people who are better at it will gather resources faster.
Claw, huh? Interesting idea. So like a mini game claw for the driver, and the driver would have to use it to gather. It's just turn like a Bethesda lock system. Great. All right. Well, so you'd have from my understanding, most of the randomized crystal elements would be spawned more towards where the battles were occurring. You'd have to, but I'm assuming you'd also be able to power up like in the warp gate.
Yeah, we'd also, I think that would always be an available place for you to power up and be a warp gate. I just think that if you happen to be, pushed back to your warp gate, you always want to have a place where you can get some power. So it kind of provides a little bit of an advantage, power-wise, to those who are fighting near their warp gate. Another risk-reward trade-off. Help out the guy who's getting completely creamed at the moment.
Yeah.
Good bone. And if you really want to drive on the front line all the way back to a warp gate, then, well, I guess you could do that if you really want.
Yeah.
I remember some epic runs in Planetside 1, getting an ant out of the warp gate and just barreling halfway across a continent to save a base. So,
right, and that's exactly the reason why we want it on like Sunder, not like a galaxy or something like that, because it's supposed to create the conflict. It's supposed to be something you fight over, and if it's too fast, you're not going to have the opportunity to really fight over it. People won't bother, and the only thing that responds are going to be aircraft if you're lucky. So that's the kind of thing we're going with. But we had talked about other forms of ground vehicles like harassers or even flashes having these things, but having much lower payloads to them. So yeah, they can bring in resources, but it's not going to be very much. And then you could sort of have like an ant death race if you really want to do it. You might have an drive all the way out there and in flashes and load up and try to get run the gauntlet to get their power deployed. I mean, that could be kind of fun and interesting.
Whole bunch of little like meta pieces to it that'd be interesting.
Yeah, like I fully expect that initially your first responders are always going to be aircraft. They're the quick ones. They're going to find these things and hunt them down, and then the next thing that comes will be the hunters of the aircraft, which would be the sky guards driving along as escort, or rangers on the Sundays, or other aircraft and like coyotes that are just helping, looking for some kills. And that's going to occur out in the middle of nowhere, not so much right next to the facilities where you're likely to find flak and lock-ons. So I think it might just be more enjoyable vehicle combat in general for those involved. And, yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, it adds a lot of objectives for vehicle people instead of just sitting there and camping spawn rooms. I mean, that's the most boring
really
thing in the world.
Sounds really good, especially for a place like Esmir where there's a lot of walls.
Yeah, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, Malorn, but the walls were kind of put in to compensate for a lot of that camping, and a lot of that won't be necessary if there's other objectives outside of just camping the spawn room. It sounds like it's kind of part of the objective of this.
I mean, the walls are basically there to partition the fight, because if you think of the basic situation of a defender, I mean, the attacker kind of rolls in. They generally have the initiative. The defenders are spawned once they see, something's going down. And when there's defenders respawn, typically they're spawning in. They're not driving tanks in and responding with those. They might have some aircraft they fly in with, if it's a big organized push, or you might have an outfit come in with a couple galaxies and try to drop infantry, but they're still dropping infantry. Mm-hmm. So generally speaking, the defender doesn't have a whole lot of tanks until they really start to push out of the base, and the attacker has the tanks. So, and the initiative and pretty much full control over everything until the defenders really start to arrive. And then once they arrive, if they can't step out of their spawn because their tanks are shelling the whole place, then that's not a very fun experience. And that's a very big disadvantage for defenders. So the idea behind the walls was and also with the dome shields, which are not implemented yet, but they're still being discussed on how best to do it. But the idea is just kind of create that isolated fight where you have this infantry only area that, or mostly infantry only area, where that's where the playing field is leveled at that point, where you're talking man on man. You're not talking about man on men plus tanks or plus aircraft or plus hovering Liberator.
Yeah. Exactly.
I mean, that's really not at all an advantageous situation to be fighting against. And it's not fun to be, camped in like that. So the idea was behind those Esamir walls was create the partitions. So separate the vehicle combat from the infantry combat. And then the combined arms area is sort of when you make that transition between the interior of the base and the exterior. And then when you go in between bases. That's sort of like how the idea was supposed to be from like Planetside 1, which was you have a courtyard, which is your transition period. You have the interior of the base, which is infantry only. And then you have the in-between bases, which is pretty much vehicle only. So that's the, your analogy there. But, I think the walls have been very successful in actually separating that combat, but they also kind of have their own little drawbacks to them, like not being able to attack out very well, making the transition much more difficult. And of course, light assaults getting up on the walls and stuff and just making things a little more frustrating for defenders. So it kind of had some good things, it had some bad things. But level design is a constantly evolving process that we see how players have reacted to things, and then we iterate on it and make it better. And, with every revamp, with every continent, like when Esamir came out, it was so much better than Indar. When Amerish came out, it was so much better than Esamir. And then we go back and revamp Indar, and it's so much better than everything else now. And then Esamir comes out, and I think in many ways it was a lot better than Indar, but in other ways it wasn't as well liked. And then we learned from that, and now we have our Amerish revamp where we're kind of putting all of our learning together into a great masterpiece of level design.
I'm waiting for the server to crash many times at the Ascent.
Yeah,
because I will be a part of the problem.
For like the walls, for example, like if you check out. Next time you hop on the test server, hop by Wokuk in the southwest part of Amerish for all three of the satellites that I redid there. I put walls up to help block out the tanks, but I also put ramparts on the walls, or battlements, so and crenels and everything. So the infantry can actually be shielded from the vehicles, but also attack out from the area, making the transition a little better. And that was the whole point there is, it's an evolving process where we find out what works and what doesn't work and then just make it better the next time around.
I'm looking forward to it. It seems like you guys have kind of made the iterations you've made, the changes to the iterations have noticed differences between obviously the gameplay that progresses on them. So yeah, I think you're achieving what you say you're achieving. So I back that. Let's you have anything else you want to say about the resource revamp? We have the other two topics we'll talk about with you will kind of come up naturally as we go through community briefing. But anything?
Oh, resource revamp. I think that was pretty much the gist of it. Oh, the sieging mechanic I think we left out, and there's other power things. So we were also looking at other ways power can be affecting the facility. Like for example, as the power lowers, you might find your terminal stop working, or your vehicle pad shuts down, or the ammo resupply doesn't work anymore. Little behaviors like that. And there's other thoughts, a little bit more game changing would be the kind where perhaps the power mechanic is the primary capture mechanic. And as the power lowers, the capture time decreases. So if you're at a base, you're heavily sieging, you're kind of wearing them down, and you're having a lot of fighting at the base, then it just becomes a quicker cap the longer you're there, which seems to work out pretty well when you figure out that, or when you factor in that usually the more people at a base, the much harder it is to capture and get in there and get a point for more than a couple minutes. And
that'd be good on something like a biolab.
Yeah, like imagine like a biolab where, okay, the power is draining down and now it's going to start capturing faster and faster. But if it's full power and some guy rolls up to it, he's not going to ninja cap it in 2 minutes like they can right now.
Yeah, that's a definite problem right now. But you already know that. So why don't we knock out the next piece?
Before we go on, have you, when you said being a person realizing that the vehicle terminal or the terminals inside are no longer working, the first thing that pops into my mind, since it's been drilled into my skull for the past few weeks, is how's that going to affect a new player who has no idea what's going on, and then all of a sudden they can't use their terminals anymore inside their own base?
Yeah, I think that's just a messaging thing that with the UI has to be intuitive about it. Like, if you walk up to a terminal and it says, press E to use the equipment terminal or something like that. You maybe change the messaging to say like, hey, your this terminal is no longer functioning, need to restore power. Or maybe there's other UI elements, over where we have the capture indicator and the which points are owned by what. That could be an area where we might have, power status or something like that, or basically indicate what's affected there. But yeah, the new player experience is always something to factor in, as the more complicated we make the game, the harder, the less accessible it becomes, to a newer player, which is the real trick in adding things which bring depth to the game. And that's one of the reasons why we want to filter or boil down all the resources down into one currency, because for a new player, that's a lot easier to understand that, I've got $5. I can spend 3 on one thing and 2 on another thing, instead of I've got dollars, francs, and Deutschmarks. I use different things for different ones. They come from different places. It starts getting a lot more confusing than when you have one currency. So that kind of simplicity, hopefully, can make it a net improvement, and we can get the right messaging for the other mechanics.
Oh, it should be like a little voiceover. Need more minerals.
Should get T-Ray to do it. What is minerals? Great. All right, Tom, why don't you knock out the heart thing, love and bullets part, and then we can get on to WDS.
Yes, love and bullets are in the air. There are some Empire-specific love decals, which are hearts with the Empire's logo in it. Some Loyal Hearts camos that are Empire-specific, and Tarnished Hearts Empire-specific.
With
camo.
the Loyal Heart camo, Tom, are you mad that NC are getting an all-yellow one that looks better than...
What? Looks better?
It's like bright yellow.
Yeah, but the black really makes the SOE Live one.
Okay,
awesome.
I was just wondering. It makes it look like a moldy banana, I know.
No. So they've already released like a super bright yellow one. It's called like Shards or something like that.
Yeah, I know.
Nothing but straight yellow. And I'll tell you what though, if you look at like your gal with the SOE decal on it, the dollar signs actually show up kind of glittery if you have it on ultra. So it actually looks badass. But
I love the black, just adds a whole bit to it that's way better. So yeah.
Personally, I think I'm going to start running the splatter camo, because actually I prefer its look over the SOE Live one. But
blasphemy.
Aside from the Galaxy is the only time the SOE Live camo looks amazing. Aside from that, it looks horrible. Like on,
I thought I was supposed to blast through this.
Oh,
sorry, I stopped it. It's my fault.
Okay, sorry.
I'm just
my
giving
fault.
you trouble. I'm just giving you trouble. All right, so there's an NS Broken Hearts camo, an NS Esamir, Indar, and Amerish Hearts camo. Which one of this is the green one?
The
that
Player
looks
Studio
like
one. The Player's
I'm going
one.
to call Trammell out. Did he make these?
It's the next one, the Player Studio
That's
Hearts.
the next one, yeah.
Oh, the heart one is like the rehashed St. Patty's Day one.
Yeah.
It's the Player Studio one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, damn it. I just made fun of a player. I suck.
Good job on this one, dudes.
There's a heart hood ornament, Cupid horns, and crossbows that are Valentine's Day crossbows. And
I'm buying a crossbow.
They better have like a pink fluttery little tracer to it, because otherwise I'm not going to buy it.
The NS one's called like the Black Heart, I think, and the NC one's called like the Stinger or something, the Heart Stinger or something like that. I don't know what the other two factions are, but
I'm going to buy a crossbow.
Oh yeah, dude, I'm totally getting a crossbow.
I'm not.
Just have a dark light and stare at somebody, shoot them with a tracer dart, or the dart's
unless
called.
it shoots like a little tracer that's pink and hearts get left behind in the air.
You're all about the
obnoxious,
like overly colored crap, and that's like gotta wear the yellow when it first came out, first yellow camo.
Well, I'm still convinced that we started the yellow trend I see on Connery.
Dude, if they're gonna do that for SOE Live this next year, it needs to be like this so yellow glowing can. He was like just like blind everyone around like a flash.
Fiber.
Yeah.
just
A whole
give me
Lumifiber, yeah.
Fiber. People can complain about me being visible all they want. I'll be awesome.
Jeez. All right.
The only thing that wasn't in that post is the actual day that they're being released. I'm wondering, is that Thursday?
Let's say again.
That was
There was no date of when these are going to be
Friday
available.
is Valentine's Day.
Right, Friday is Valentine's Day. Patches usually drop on Thursdays. So I'm just wondering if we're going to see it Thursday or we'll see it Friday on Valentine's Day. Either way, I'm sure it's coming this week.
Yep. So, next up, World Domination Series. That began, and it ends 2/28. F&O is going to feature either our good friend here, Malorn, Clegg, or Pterodactyl.
Hey, Malorn, can you confirm if it's going to be released Wednesday or Thursday? Do you know by chance?
I'm gonna plead complete ignorance.
Yeah, so Purple People Eater is basically an idiot in the chat room. I just want to put that out there. Keep going. I'm sick of listening to his bullshit. Just keep going with the rest of it. I'm going to ban it.
All right. So then, and then as of tonight, the NC overall in the lead. VS is close behind. So, yeah, we're talking about WDS. Beyond that, are we?
Yeah, well, let's see here. Malorn, you said that you may have had something possibly you were talking about for WDS changes. Is that still the case?
Yeah, there's actually probably right after I get done with this podcast, I'll be making a post on the official forums about what we're going to be doing with the WDS changes.
Nice. Okay. Can you give us any clues to that, maybe?
Well, I suppose for your viewers or your listeners, rather, I can give you a little summary. Basically, let me talk about just what this preseason is all about first. And we had the first preseason. We had quite a bit of issues to sort out after that one, and a lot of data to pour over and work out. And some of the big things that came out of that was one, a lot of people talked about how they just weren't engaged, didn't care, had no personal interest in the outcome. So one of the top things we wanted to add in was personal contribution and giving players rewards for participating regardless of how their empire turned out. And then we wanted that to coincide with doing things that were good for the scoring of the empire. So that was kind of an early step of the evolution. And we also knew that the work gates were causing terrible problems in the way that they were set up, both in player perception as well as, actual results. We saw very significant shifts as a result of the work gates. And we didn't have like a schedule to have them rotate, and, it required downtime and a bunch of other things related to that. We had some snafus with the reward granting. Like, if you're a VS player, I'm sorry. We had that 1 week where VS won, but VR got the rewards, and then we had some other folks the next week who were VS and got one, and then they didn't get any rewards at all that time. And it was just we had like week 1, they got a hyper boost instead of a normal boost. So it kind of had a lot of little issues to sort through. And so, those are pretty much where we started for the preseason 2, which was, all right, let's get this reward thing taken care of first and foremost. And we were making sure all our tools are giving us the right information and looking through bugs in the scoring, reporting that we had. We also made all the reward granting automated. So, when the week ticks over, whoever wins, rewards are automatically granted. There's no no one that has to sit around at midnight on like a Sunday just to look at, run a report and then start granting people things.
It's gotta be rough for your DBA. I'm assuming it's your DBAs to do those grants, I'm guessing.
A lot of times when we have like little those one-off grants where like someone didn't get certs or something like that. Yeah, that's what ends up happening.
Jeez.
So So we had that. We got that sorted out. One of the big ticket ones was the warp gates, because not only does that affect us in WDS, but also outside WDS, was getting the warp gates configured. A long time peeve of my own has been the fact that we only had 3 of the possible 6 configurations going at any given time. That we'd always rotate, clockwise. And I'm like, well, what about the other time? I'm kind of tired of the NC being always on my left. VS always on the right, no matter what position we're in. And, so we want to take care of that. And we also wanted to avoid situations where one empire might get the best warp gate on every single continent all at once. And of course, different continents have different warp gates that are kind of better than others. So we set about balancing out the warp gates. We also want to get a baseline for the scoring. So when we knew what to expect as here's how the scoring played out. So we had several called hidden seasons that were going on throughout December and January, where we would use our updated scoring rules and then get the data back for how they played out when players weren't paying any attention to it at all, had no input. So we basically got a baseline out of that. For use of further tweaking of the scoring, balancing the warp gates and other sort of stuff, we take all the variables out of, or a lot of the variables out of the equation, all the player related, perception variables and player related, behavioral changes as a result of the WDS. So we could actually see, what kind of impact we're really having when the season starts. We can compare it to the baseline and say, okay, yeah, we saw this shift with this empire on this server. And, so we could better gauge, player agency and also better understand, the impact of organization or server culture. So
After the first few days, has there been a difference between the baseline data and reality?
There has been some difference in baseline. Yes, we've seen some. I mean, we've definitely seen a difference because player behavior has changed quite substantially since we started this. So we have seen that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's come a Zerg fest.
Yeah. So
smashing them right and left.
Well, it is. That's what it is.
Get to that. Let me get to that.
I'm a part of it. I won't deny it.
Yeah. So we took care of the rewards, took care of the warp gates. We started getting the scoring baselined, and as a result of also adding in the personal contribution to the scoring, we're like, well, we can't just do attack; we have to do defense. So we added in the defensive scoring as a result, because we kind of foresaw a little bit of something like what has happened, but it certainly caught us a little off guard. Not quite what we expected. But yeah, we added in the capture and the defense and capture scoring, and then recalibrated everything based on that, using the data we were getting in our calibration periods, and also looking at basic capture and hold data, like how long is an outpost typically held, how long is how many times is it defended versus captured, and kind of understanding and balancing out everything from that respect. So we got through all of that, and then we wanted to address the personal stuff, which meant we also had to get rid of our difficulty modifier that we had. And one of the reasons we got rid of it, actually two reasons we had to get rid of it. The first was that the moment we add in personal contribution, we can't really scale personal contribution the same way we did before with the difficulty, because it really kind of screws over the players that were off peak, because they would have gotten much less points per capture and that sort of thing. And that's not the kind of thing we really want to encourage, is to say people, "Oh, sorry, you're playing off peak. Go work harder. Go do that."
Yeah.
That's not a very, very good message either. And, to add a little more value to people off peak is, I think, also a good thing to kind of keep the fights going more throughout the day, and to give those guys that are playing in those tougher times, something that they can really contribute to in a meaningful way. And so I think that was kind of the idea behind it. And,
so it seems like you definitely have lessons learned as you go forward with each iteration of this.
Yeah.
with this last one, I know that some of the biggest complaints have been around Zerging. I don't care about the personal benefits thing. If you're getting something for free, you're getting something for free. I really don't give a shit. Quit bitching is my concept on that. I know a lot of people probably don't agree, but as far as the Zerging aspect, you say you're looking at, you're obviously collecting data based on that. What kind of ideas do you guys have of maybe ways to fix that?
Well, I mean, I think the root issue, I mean, this certainly caught us a little off guard. I mean, we were kind of expecting that people would kind of cheese the system, but didn't really expect the mass, the kind of the mass scale, and you know, that's certainly on me as a mistake, because I should have known that sort of thing. I should have seen that one coming.
It didn't figure the cheese. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we knew the cheese was going to happen. We knew like the defensive cheese especially was going to happen. Like, oh, we flipped a point. Oh, we flipped it back. Aha, we got some points.
Oh, that's how I've gotten the majority of my points.
I mean,
that's how I hit my first 500 points, was just the same biolab over and over again.
Yeah. You know, we knew that was going to happen. But because, you know, more longer term, we understand that defense itself, the definition of defense, needs to be better. It needs to be something that's fixed. So we're kind of living with that in the short term. And as part of the missions or maybe other features, we're going to try to redefine defense in something more meaningful and less cheesy. And maybe we could put better rewards around it too, not just for WDS, but for other things, that if we can get it so it's not cheesy and better reflect actually, you know, kicking the guys out of the territory, not just flipping a point. That's the kind of defense that seems better and, more to the spirit of what you should be rewarded for.
Can I ask you a few questions?
It's a podcast. Come on.
All right. Well, I didn't read the rules exactly, and so I'm kind of like in the same pool as other people who don't.
No.
So
yep.
When a base gets captured and you get 12 points or whatever, I got 12 points in my personal. Does that 12 points go to the total score, or is it 12 points per person there? It's not that way, is it?
It's not per person there. Like your Empire will get those 12 points for added into the Empire score, and then you'll get those points to your personal contribution. So contribution, Empire score are separate things. One is how much you're participating, and the other is what's your actual score for the season.
Right. And then for the defense, though, when you defend a base like that, point flips back and forth, does that go towards the Empire?
Yes, they both go towards the Empire.
Okay. I was just about that.
Well, I mean, we have a lot of facility data, and I looked at that pretty closely to understand how many times is something actually defended. Like, how many times does that actual defense thing typically happen? And I think overall it happens like 1.7 times for every one to capture, about that. But for biolabs and large outposts, it happens a lot more frequently. Compared to other outposts. Those basically get cheesed. And before we started this, we had a feeling that we may need to tone down the defensive rewards for those, just because they happen so much more frequently and they're so much easier to get. And that's one of the upcoming changes, is that the defensive scoring for those will not be increased as the others will be. So, yeah, that sort of the sort of cheese aspect is definitely something that we knew about going in. It wasn't an oversight or anything. It was just this exists. There's not much we can do about it right now. Let's try to work within the bounds
well, yeah, I mean, like when I was helping coming up with rules for Community Clash, you just gotta kind of like let us see how it plays out.
Sometimes.
Yeah, for you guys though, you have a much better understanding of some of the challenges that we have creating this system.
Oh, it's not easy. No.
It's very apparent to us as we've gone forward with it.
Very, very challenging coming up with a scoring metric for how well an empire is doing that doesn't result in a lot of cheese and is actually a fair way to do it. Like,
we're only doing with 24 to be 24. We're not dealing with 10,000 or 5,000, 5,000. Like, it's totally different field of even play. But yeah, I know what you're saying. It's not easy. And I have to say, the competitive community has helped us out a lot with it, but it's still not perfect by any means. Not even close.
Yeah, getting some better metrics. I mean, and there's not very many MMO FPS games out there to really who've attempted this. I can't really think of any, but you know, there's other games that have something similar. Like one inspiration was Guild Wars 2. They have an open world battleground area where you accumulate points based on territories owned, and that's your score for the season. And they have kind of a weekly thing that they do as well. And that's actually one of the reasons we moved the start time to a Friday morning, is because we wanted to have all the excitement about the week and how the beginning of the week starting on a weekend where anything's game, anybody can pull out ahead during the weekend. And that's when more players have time to play. So we didn't want to start it like on a Monday. And then by the time you get to Friday and Saturday, you know, they've already earned all these points in the previous parts of the week and it's kind of wash. You know, we didn't really want that.
Yeah.
So, you know, if we had to choose times where it might be kind of already decided, we'd rather have that sort of in the middle of the week where generally we don't have as many people playing anyway. So, so that's why we moved it to like, on a Friday morning. So you have the whole weekend and the early part of the next week to really, to nail things down. But you know, they had that system. They have good ideas, something like that. But they too have problems like we have, like ghost capping. You know, you capture a keep or whatever, it's the same value, no matter whether it's defended or not. So they try to ninja keeps all the time, and you know, they have big zergs come in and just mop up everything. So I mean, while they're a good source of information, certainly they experience some of the same challenges we do, and not wanting to encourage zerging and encourage good fights, which kind of takes me to the whole root issue that I believe we run into, which is basically that a player's effort or risk or challenge involved in an objective capture or defense is not really factored in at all. And that's what kind of leaves us open to the cheese exploits or players taking the path of least resistance to get captures. And that's sort of the root problem that would need to be addressed. And it's not the first time we've run into it either. If you look at the pre-lattice, we had that happen all the time on Indar, just giant zergs circling each other, not actually fighting. Occasionally they bump into each other and then split off and go another direction again. And they just get caps. And even if it was, you know, 250 XP on a small outpost, like, yep, they'll sit there for 5 minutes to get that 250 XP.
Rather than get 1,000 in the same time killing people.
Exactly. It doesn't matter if it's not efficient; they'll still do it because it's easy and it's a free reward, and people like free stuff. Who doesn't like free stuff? So that's the kind of thing we have to challenge. The lattice sort of forced people into fighting more because it removed some of the freedom to just circle around like that. And so, you know, if you want to cap some more stuff, you got to fight in there. And that was kind of part of the logic behind the build up over time on the point values, is that you would capture something and then the territories deeper in by the warp gates would be the most valuable. So it gives you a reason to try to push in and take another Empire stuff instead of just kind of trading bases on the periphery. And also as a means of counteracting ghost capping on an empty continent, because if like you're on Amerish and they just come through and take everything on Amerish, another Empire comes through, takes everything on Amerish, you know, if they don't have those places held for a while, they're not going to be worth nearly as much as if they had gone and fought over a base on Indar that has been held for a long time.
Yeah, it's hard to incentivize fighting when the point system revolves around bases at the same time.
Right.
Like it's a tough dynamic to kind of weave those two together. I can imagine.
Yeah, that's one of the big challenges that we run into. And I think the root problem is that we need a good way to integrate player effort into the equation. So, you know, if you're doing something very risky or very challenging, you're going to get a lot bigger reward out of it than if you do something that's effortless. And that's something that Planetside 1 did pretty well with the way that they did the captures, that usually the big fights are worth the big points. And if you ghost cap something, it wasn't really worth very much. Typically wasn't even worth your time to hang around. And the ghost caps in PS1 were actually ghost caps. The guy would come in, he'd flip the point, and then he would, or put the hack on, and then he'd leave. And then you would, you show up and there's nobody there. You'd resecure it, get your like 5 XP for resecuring an empty base, and go on your merry way.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong. My understanding from a little bit I talked to you, well, not a little bit, we got to talk to you at SOE Live, which, by the way, guys, one of the beautiful things about SOE Live is, I shit you not, we walked out of our hotel room, we're half drunk. We meet Malorn and
Half?
Well, we were pretty lit, but we walked out of our hotel room to go. I don't even remember where we were going at the time, and we literally bumped right into Malorn, and he like was 2 feet above me and just looked down at me and said, "Where are you going?" I was like, I didn't know where I was going at the time, but then we ended up talking to him for like 2 hours. It was and this is kind of where the resource revamp first came up, and realized that Malorn was kind of had a lot of thought behind that and where it came from. But at the time, correct me if I'm wrong. You were a PS1 vet, right?
Oh, absolutely. Yep.
And a lot of you liked the game so much that when you got this request to come back to work on PS2, that was one of the main incentive pieces behind it, right? That you loved the game so much you kind of came back to help with its, well.
It was it was my favorite game of all time, I think, was Planetside. I don't know, Planetside 2 might actually be overcoming it or have overcome it, but it's hard to get that, originality one out of there. But yeah, it was my favorite game of all time. So opportunity to work on it was really kind of like something that doesn't come up twice. So, yeah, it was, I played Planetside way back in the heyday during its, I would say its prime in 2003, 4, and 5. And, yeah, I believe I was the second CR5 in the world who ever got that. I grinded the crap out. It's glory days of college, and you got no time on your hands. You just pound through that.
The chat room is calling you out as a PS1 NC outfit leader, not TR.
That is correct. I played on NC.
Why the change? Why are you not TR?
I made the change because
more DACA.
Well, I mean, it was kind of a reset of the genre, and I did actually have kind of a secret TR character that I played a lot. And originally, when I first started playing Planetside, I was TR. I played TR. I switched to NC on the last week of beta, and then kind of spent most of my time playing NC. But I think TR has always appealed to me a bit more. I mostly switched to NC because of the Phoenix and the Jackhammer. And can you really blame me?
Jackhammer was deadly. What I miss most about Planetside 1 is being able to use the other factions' weapons. Like loading up my NC character with lashers and running around. I think it's the one thing I miss most about Planetside 1.
Yeah, I keep hearing people talk about that the more I play now, and I'm not a PS1 vet, so I feel kind of like out of my element in this, but that sounds like an amazing option to be able to pick up like a lasher and be like, aha, or jackhammer if I was TR.
And the worst part is you'd have to find ammo for it too, because it didn't come with ammo.
So you have to kill more of your enemy of that faction to get the ammo.
I had a lot of chain guns in my locker.
In the locker, yeah, that's the thing. It's all in your locker.
I would have so many pulsars. It'd be. You wouldn't even know.
When we could log into Planetside 1 a while back, there was a free month or something. I logged in and I went and looked at my locker, and it was still all lashers and mini chain guns.
Nice, and that's one of the free to play games that's one of the games they're continuing to bring. I thought they're gonna make it free to play.
Correct.
Yeah, doesn't understand. But all right, so we've covered WDS. For those of you that don't know what WDS is, and those that haven't played the game for a while, we have a lot of listeners that don't play the game for an extended period of time. WDS is a world domination series. It's kind of as much as you've heard us describe it, I think you've got an idea what the framework's about. But it's
hitting redeploy a lot.
So, I did want to say a little bit more about that. I mean, we talked about some of the things that we were talking about, but I didn't really talk about how we're going to address it. So like in the future, in the year 2000, we will try to have a much better model for giving rewards and better defined defenses, so you're not so easily cheesable and a little bit more meaningful of an achievement. But in the near term, I believe one of our players, Rel, suggested swapping a capture and defense scores, and we thought about that a bit, and we're actually going to be doing that. And I'm going to have a post about that probably in the next hour or so on the official forums, detailing more specifically about that. But
so just two separate scores?
No, we're going to just swap the values.
Swap them.
Oh.
Instead of capture being worth more defense will be worth more than capture. So, no, we understand there's going to be some cheesing there too. But we think it's better to err on the side of, defense, which at least encourages you to be at a place and fight and create a better chance of creating a fight when you're rewarding defense more than capture.
That should be interesting. I guess if people are really paying attention to the score as a total and they really want to get to the end objective.
Sorry,
go ahead. What?
Sorry, my brain went on. Like, the first thing I think of when you say rewarding defense more is, what about those single point bases, and what happens if you defend it so well that they never even take it, and you basically spend an hour doing nothing, or not working towards the objective? Like, you have the holds, but some of those hold times are pretty long.
I understand what you're saying, but there's just not much we can do about it, at least on short notice, to really affect that. That would go into the bucket of the stuff that I said in the year 2000.
Oh, I got you. Yeah.
Yeah, and I know there's going to be cheese, and I can see the chat. I know there's going to be cheese on that, but
Biolabs.
We'll see how it plays out. This is it's still a preseason.
Better to have cheese on that than have people run around ghost capping. So
I have a quick question. I know maybe it's not something you can answer. How many preseasons are we going to have before we have an actual season?
I believe none. No more.
No more. Okay.
This will be the last.
So the next iteration.
This is the last planned.
Okay.
And yes, I can see chat with Roy. Just I know some people look the crap out of it. I know.
See, but the other thing is, won't people
I'm under no illusions that that's not going to happen.
Won't people ramp backwards a little bit after they hit that 2,000 point when there's really nothing else for personal rewards for them to get?
Oh, that's one of the expectations. Yeah. If there are people who are going to flip a bunch of points and get a bunch of score, how much are they really going to do before they all cap out and then go do something else? I mean, that's what they really want to do. Then, they'll do it and they'll be done with it and they'll move on. So they'll be doing it all the time.
I have two things left. Now, you've already talked about that you're looking at fixing how the cheesing mentality of flipping one point and then having the people flip it back and kind of exploiting the system is going to be looked at with this next revision. Is that correct?
That's something that's definitely in our crosshairs for addressing, at least on the defensive side of changing the way we define a defense differently. And that's not going to be for preseason 2, but that is something that's fairly high on our priority list of things to at least address in the near term. It may not be a perfect solution, but we're looking at a few ways that we can cut back on the cheese and make it so it's at least a little more reasonable.
Okay.
My big pie in the sky vision is more of a I'd like to see rewarding capture attempts, defense attempts, as well as successful captures and successful defenses. It's like what, I think Noxx mentioned earlier about, you fight at a base for a long time and ultimately, you kick them out or you fail and you get nothing in either case. That's kind of something that we'd like to fix ultimately.
Other than a fun fight.
And that's not just for WDS stuff. I'm thinking that for everything, all your rewards would be kind of like that, because I see behavior every night where guys will be defending a tower or defending some base, and then you start to get overrun, and then it gets to the point where it's no longer possible to save the base. And your only real options are, okay, try to get as many kills as you possibly can, or go somewhere else. And if you go somewhere else, chances are you're not going to the next base in the line. You're going to go some other fight, and now you have a bunch of guys that got nowhere to go, or the guys are going to be ghost capping the next couple of bases until someone tries to defend those. And it just kind of kills a couple fights, and it kills the next fights too. So I think rewarding people for sticking it out, giving them some consolation even if they lose, I think is something that would ultimately benefit the game and create some better fights in the longer term.
Hey, Tom, you should know the answer. How long has LOL been out?
A long time.
How long did it take them to figure out how to mold their game to human nature?
What do you mean? They had, well...
So you have, like, the player, you have the council, you have all this other crap that LOL's put in. How long did it take them to figure out to mold their game to, like,
to, like, build
community?
all what exists now? Years.
Yeah. So, I'm if nothing
years
else...
on top of all the way Dota, like, led the charge for years before that on the whole gameplay style itself.
So that's its origination of MOBA. There's not a lot of MMO FPSs out there. At least, if nothing else, I'm interested.
There's Planetside 1 and, that's it?
Is Fireball considered an MMO FPS? I don't know if he might even plays anymore. I guess some people do,
I
but
feel like MMO is overly used nowadays, but that's a totally different topic.
yeah. Well, anyway, so it's going to take some time to adapt this. Anyways, I'm interested to at least see. I know there's going to be cheese. In fact, I'm expecting to cheese it myself. There's going to be cheese on the defending, but I'm interested to see how it plays out, as a large part of the population doesn't necessarily just kind of follows what their outfits do. So I'm interested to see what it does for the larger portion of the population.
So speaking of the dreaded P word,
Yeah.
what are there going to be, or are you guys looking at ways to make WDS better for people who are out-popped?
WDS initially, I'm actually kind of yes and no. We're actually looking at two different population issues right now. This will be on in my post as well, a little bit later. One is the fourth faction, and understanding what exact impact this has. I mean, apart from the kind of, well, man, I noticed, and all of a sudden our pop's down, their pop's up. It must have been people switching, like how much of that's people logging off, people logging on, people sticking around when they might not have stuck around, how much of it is actually people switching, that sort of thing. So we're looking into understanding that, not just in the short term of throughout the day, when does that happen, but also longer term, like, do you have people that follow warp gate rotations? Do you have guys that will, hop faction, that might stick with a faction for a while, not just swap on a daily basis, but they might swap, every couple weeks or something like that. So kind of just understanding the fourth faction, or as I called it earlier today, fourth faction Mythbusters edition. So we could find out what's real and what's not real about the fourth faction, because I think there's a little bit of both. There's probably some truth in there, but there's also probably some myth in there to sort out. And that's one of the things we're looking at. Population is a much, like population balance in general, is a much more difficult one to address. A lot of that's because only recently do we really start to be able to get data that wasn't tainted by warp gates. So one of the things that we did notice from our calibrations was that absolutely warp gate was a very, very obvious, probably the number one cause of imbalances in scoring. I say that in scoring, keyword scoring, because that's the metric by which I'm measuring the effectiveness. So if we're looking at the point values, when we did a warp gate rotation, you may have noticed several warp gate rotations over December and January. Sorry if you didn't like those. That was us getting data for the WDS scoring. But we looked at that and saw that, across the board, like if an Empire got a good warp gate, they got a bigger score. And so one of our challenges was addressing that, because, I mean, if you remember the first preseason, that was one of the huge things talked about is, the TR have the North Warp Gate, they just auto win, and then the NC got it, and they're like, oh yeah, now NC is going to do better, and they did do better. They didn't, quite dominate as much as they thought, but they did do better. And then, the VS got the North Warp Gate at the very end and just completely cleaned house, along with a couple other changes we put in. But I mean, we studied that quite a bit in the off season as well. And, just really understanding what the impact of the gates was. And it was actually a pretty big impact. Like I could look at the scoring and see, like on every server, TR did better this week because they did better on Indar. And like you could just look at, you could predict the results just by the warp gate rotations. And so that had to be resolved, and we resolved it by balancing the gates across the continents. So we can't really make Indar balance without completely redoing the continent. That's just not feasible. What we can do is match up different warp gates on different continents such that the earning power of each gate got sort of equalized. And so we have combinations that produce about the same amount, historically based on the off-season calibrations. And that's how we get the gates that we have now, which is, North Indar is paired up with Northwest Amerish and Northwest Esamir, which are the two worst gates on Esamir and Amerish. Those are the absolute worst gates, because you have the absolute best gate in the north of Indar. However, the other continents, the other positions, like if you have the southeast part of Indar, which is I believe where the VS are right now, that one is the worst Indar gate, but it's not like worse by a massive margin. It's just noticeably worse. That one we pair up with the southwest Esamir gate, which is, I believe, like the third best gate or fourth best gate of all the continents. And that one typically dominates a good chunk of Esamir most of the time. That helps compensate the fact that you're in the canyons. And also you get like it's kind of a close tie between the other two Amerish gates, but they get the northeast gate with that. And then if you're in the highlands, you've got the northeast Esamir gate, which does pretty good. The highlands do pretty good, and the south of Amerish, which does well. So those are how we balanced out the gates to get the equilibrium of scoring. And now that we've done that, we can go back to the original question you asked me, which was population. It's like when we can calibrate for the gates being producing about the same amount in the off season across all the servers, then we could also now look at and better understand the population impact, however it exists, because it's very easy to put in a population handicap and have it just go the other way. Like when we did it in the preseason one, we had a lot of TR pretty upset because they felt like they were being overly punished for having the population, like more so than they should have. And it's very possible that happened. And we want to make sure we get it right the next time and not like overcompensate or maybe not do enough. So right now in this preseason, we're not putting in any population controls, and we're gathering data to make sure that we fully understand the impact of population and can give an appropriate handicap to what it really is. And one other reason that this is really challenging is because empires perform very differently. Like another important aspect is that the organization level and skill level of the outfits and players on different factions is very noticeable. Like if you look at Matherson VS, I remember playing quite a bit against them. They really got their stuff together, and they've been dominating for a long time on that server, even before they had a population advantage on the server. And they were dominating at the end of the WDS, even at a lower population than the TR or I forget, TRNC. No, they might have had more population at the time. I can't really remember that server specific, but here they are in this preseason, and I was like stunned at the first day of results because they just came out and were outscoring the other empires 2-1. And population advantage or no, that's quite a feat that goes well beyond any sort of population advantage. And you compare that to like Ceres, which also has a little bit of an NC population there, advantage through a couple chunks of the day. Ceres NC are being matched by the VS, and even though the VS and the TR basically have the same population, you kind of see a scoring difference. So it's very hard to differentiate between empires that are just talented and doing well in spite of a population advantage or in addition to a population advantage, or empires that are just terrible and just not doing well, even if they have population, or especially if they don't have population. So it's really hard that with all that variability and the differences between server cultures to really nail down what the appropriate handicap for population really should be. And that's what we're trying to do with this preseason is keep the cores as much as stable as we can, do a couple warp gate rotations, see how the scoring adds out, and then give an appropriate Empire handicap.
That was a much more thorough answer than I expected.
Tell you, man, we put a lot of thought into this stuff.
It's nice to actually hear that, though. Like, hear you, like, boom, here's my, this is why I lay out exactly why we do what we do. When people think it's like, it's just knee-jerk reaction so constantly.
Yeah, this is not knee-jerk. I didn't just wake up one day and throw crap on the wall and say, hey, let's ship it.
Sounds great.
We spend a lot of time thinking about this stuff, and I've spent countless hours poring over data, just observing from what I play, looking through feedback of players. It's not just all data. It's, we get good feedback from players and we pay attention to it. It's like with the WDS stuff now. I mean, we saw a lot of unhappy players talking about the ghost capping behavior. And then we went and looked for data that would, support or give us a better estimate of the magnitude of the effect. And we found a pretty significant one. So, we have the player feedback, we have the data, which helps us interpret. The player feedback helps us interpret the data and interpret it correctly. So those two really go hand in hand. And so, I mean, we spent a lot of time going through that stuff because, when you look through the player feedback, takes a lot of time to get through because you got to feed through stuff that's constructive and great and solid feedback. Like, I know Rel and Murda typically put a lot of that feedback like that. But it's like a 20-minute video I have to watch. And then, going through all the forum posts and even the posts that are just people just really upset. And, I pour through that anyway, because, in there, they're talking about something, they're upset about something. I'm trying to figure out what exactly it is, because sometimes it's not always what they're saying. It's like, there's what people say and what they're telling you are not always the same thing. So I try to distill out, what's the underlying problem and try to address that.
Cool.
All right. Next one's yours, Mark. Let's knock out the Infiltrator update real quick.
Knock out the rest of the show, right? I think we've made Malorn.
We still have the Amerish revamp, but let's keep.
I think Malorn's talked more than all of us for the past month.
That's good. That's the point.
No, I agree.
We have to talk about Amerish revamp still?
Yeah,
well, let's go.
There was a tweet today from Higbee stating that the Infiltrator update will be released this week, and that next week the Amerish update will be released. So, as a result, next week we are going to have everyone's favorite TR sniper Mustarde on to discuss all things Infiltrator. So look for that next week. Mustarde.
All right. Community question. You want to knock this off, Tom, so we can get going?
All right. Last week we asked, what information should the outfit recruiting tool, when out, contain? And we never posted it, so this week's question's the same with less fail.
And we never posted it because we were all too busy playing WDS.
Yeah.
Which started on Friday, and the show was on Monday, so that leaves 3 days of us failing.
I usually post them Sunday afternoon, but I was too busy playing.
Alrighty. So the Community Clash piece, we had a TRAF versus EXE this last week on Community Clash. It was actually pretty even up to the last, I don't know.
Really even.
Last half, there was, even then it was pretty even.
They were tied 0-0 at halftime.
Yeah.
If that's not even, nothing is.
Yeah. Alright, let's get to the next section. Good, bad, no, Pete.
Have another drink on me, soldier.
Okay, thank you kindly.
If you can look hard enough past all the death and all the sorrow, there are good things. You must remember that we will overcome the good, the bad, and the overpowered.
All right. My good, I played a bunch, and it was a blast. Like I always say, I might not play often, but when I do, I always have fun. And a lot of cool things happened, but I don't remember them. So it couldn't have been that cool.
Because you were drunk?
No, I honestly can't remember them. Like I remember one, I finally had that moment where a dude was like, "Are you the Noxx?" I laughed a little and I was like, I suppose so. Then my bad is I'm playing way too much this weekend. My apartment's a disaster. I didn't clean it at all.
Told you need to get a maid.
Well, yeah. Well, I don't want to pay for someone to do what I can do.
I want you to repeat what you said before the show so that no woman in this chat room or ever listen to the show can...
I have it recorded. Maybe we'll release it in a
recorded
special
info
episode.
in the special, 100th episode. All right.
All right. So for me, my good is I'm using the Decimator in close quarters combat right now, and it's absolutely ungodly.
You are such a little...
I Araxlimed it over the weekend. No, I'm kidding.
One shot kills infantry with the other rockets. Why do you have to use the Decimator?
Because it's more fun.
It's like the S1's not good enough as it is, really.
Well, I stopped using the S1 because I went to the Nemesis, and now I'm like, I don't even want to shoot air down anymore. I just want to plaster people in the face.
Your favorite map in Battlefield 3 was that stupid marketplace one where people
it was
shot
Metro.
rockets down B, isn't it?
No, it was Metro.
Oh, well, still, rocket spam.
Yeah, rocket and grenade spam.
I'm a noob. I don't know how to aim. Pooh!
Wow.
I love killing people with rockets. It's just the way to go.
All right.
My bad, and this is going to go right out to Torkz Kill. I'm really sorry that I killed you with somebody else's C4 over the weekend. I felt bad.
You said that you called him Future Poo.
I did not.
You said you did.
Did not. So Torkz Kill, I am sorry for killing you with C4.
He blew up Future Poo. So he told me. All right. My gift for the week is my lake that I live on got frozen deep enough now. It's just at 7 inches where I can take the four-wheeler out on it with the inner tubes behind it. So we're going to go roll around on it.
Measure the depth of a lake's frozenness.
You drill a core. And
how do you even have the balls to go on ice on a ATV?
Have you ever, dude? We've done it for years, dude.
I don't even want to walk on ice.
Don't you remember, Tom? He has servants that do that. That's where all the ReachCast show money goes to.
My servants, yeah. Go out in the middle of that lake, Jeeves, and drill a hole.
See if
that's exactly what
if
happens.
You die. If you don't, then I'll
If
go.
you don't die, it'll be good. No, seriously, it's been about 5 years since the lake's been deep enough or frozen deep enough where I can take an ATV out on it. But
It's particularly cold this winter.
Yeah, it has been particularly cold in Missouri this winter. So anything past 6 inches, you can take an ATV on. So we took it out. I ran an ATV back and forth across the lake. It's about a 50-acre lake. I ran it back and forth this last weekend to make sure it was good. So we're going to take the inner tubes and the boys out this week. And on inner tubes, and oh my god, it's so much fun. It's so much
this weekend. Can I join?
It's so much better than sledding. Can you imagine being on an inner tube behind a four-wheeler and somebody just spins a four-wheeler, whips it, and you just fly with this inner tube for 30 feet, just across a frozen lake.
And then hit a tree and die.
It's in the middle of a lake. Where are you going to hit a tree? Where is there going to be a tree in the middle of the
shore? So, like I said, a 50-acre lake, you're just going to sail across that and hit a tree.
We're going to fly off the side of the lake and hit a tree. 50 acres, it would fly 6 acres long and just hit a tree. If I hit a tree this weekend, I swear to you, I will send you $100.
Perfect.
Next weekend.
And then we'll have to be interviewing for another show host.
Yeah. If I hit a tree this week with the ATV, I'll be dead either way, more than likely, because that means I'll be flying off the side of the lake, off the dam, probably. But, so that's my gift for this week. I'm definitely looking forward to doing more of it this week before it gets warm.
I want to join you.
Let me hit you up. It's gonna get warm Thursday, so if you want to meet me out here Wednesday, we can do that.
I might have to do that.
So it's rare. It's only about every 5 or 6 years. Like I said, it's been 5 years since we were able to do it last. That it was cold enough where it froze this deep, but it is this year. So hells yeah. Anyways, bad is a trucker bomb hit my car this week. So
did it really?
No, it's not at all. But I want people to Google trucker bomb so that they can enjoy what I enjoy for our pre-show. So for 15 minutes hearing about trucker bombs and all
You're
of
welcome.
the
You're welcome for that.
all of the detailed analysis of trucker bombs that we did for the first 15 minutes of this show before you guys heard us go live.
Malorn was quite intrigued.
Oh
He
my
wants
goodness.
to make it a new weapon in Planetside 2.
Malorn, it's a Liberator dropper. It's going to drop.
No, it's like C4.
Well,
You step on that thing, it's
just-
over.
that's your
It messes up your vision and makes everything
Oh,
Imagine if your flash hits that thing while you're going full speed. Ooh.
like toilet wine. Just drop toilet wine.
knocks you straight off it.
Oh. All right. ReachCast mailbag.
Oh, it's a perfect morning. Great timing, the mailman's just coming.
Here's the mail. Big bag, a big bag. See you later.
He must be in a hurry to get away. Very strange. What's the sneaking sound? Going to take a look here in this bag of mail. Oh no!
Now you just open the ReachCast mailbag.
You didn't ask Malorn his good or bad.
I think Malorn's dead. You still here, man?
Yeah.
Okay. You want to give us a quick good and bad for this last week for you before we go on to the calls for the week?
The good and bad. What do you mean?
So just tell me what was the best part of your week and what was the worst part. Like getting hit by a car might be your worst.
Oh, let's see. Best and worst in the last week. I think bronchitis is probably the worst.
Oh, crap.
no,
Yeah, that'll do it.
Nobody got time for that.
Yeah, that'll do it.
Um,
Good.
Best was
Yes.
I don't know if it's best. I think I'm gonna also put like discovering Hearthstone also in my worst list. Sucked away my time, some of my money.
Blame Clegg for that.
I do blame Clegg for that because I probably never would have clicked on that link were it not for him playing it. So thank you, Clegg. But yeah, now I'm playing it, so it's I guess it's better now. So I guess maybe it kind of moves into one of the better things of my week. I think my wife's pot roast she made tonight was definitely the best of the week. I mean, damn, it's great.
That sounds delicious.
So a good crock pot one that was
it was
going all day too.
She put barbecue in there, so like tomato sauce, like just the right amount of tender.
If I had that Tom Grunt soundboard, it'd be perfect right now.
Yeah. And if we extend back more than 1 week, like 1 week in a day, I would say it was the Seahawks winning the Super Bowl. That's
That counts. You can say that.
I'm a huge Seahawks fan, man. Huge fan.
I think you're one of the few people that actually enjoyed the game, though, because if you weren't a Seahawks fan, it was kind of a boring game.
I love
Literally
that.
the worst
I
football
love that
game I've ever
It was
watched.
a fantastic game. I have no regrets of that game.
That's what you want, though, in the Super Bowl when your team's in it. You want them to absolutely dominate from start to finish.
Let me tell you what you don't want. You don't want a game where a couple bad calls may have decided the game. Like I'm just thinking a Super Bowl 40, maybe just an example I'm going to throw out there. Yeah, you don't want a situation where
you don't want a Super Bowl where your team has gone 18-0 and then some nobody catches the stupid football on his helmet.
What?
Yeah, there are other ways the Super Bowl could end that are less satisfying, but complete domination is not one of them.
At least one team gets enjoyment out of it. If nothing else.
You know, they're finally there. Got the respect they deserve. So yeah, that's definitely high on my list of good things.
You know, they were a good team this year, and they're going to be good for a number of years. So
I certainly hope so.
enjoy the ride.
I think I will. Going to enjoy that.
All right. First call we have, only call we have, is from 057 this week.
What's up, ReachCast? 007 from the Freelancers Union here. And on last week's question on outfit recruiting, I'd like to say that besides the outfit logo, name, and tag, we'd also need a description of the outfit. Is it a MOG outfit, or is it a casual or a hardcore outfit? That days of activity, do they have a platoon open every day, or do they only have platoons open on certain days, maybe days they actually have their actual operations? And with that, if they have any sign-up operations in the end of the month, like my outfit has, it would also be good to see if the outfit is in a certain alliance, like a factional alliance or maybe even a cross-server alliance. Also, it would be nice if you could see how many players are currently in the outfit and what's the average battle rank. And with that, who's the actual person who created the outfit, and who are the officers in the outfit, high-ranking officers, basically the people who usually lead platoons and squads, stuff like that. And a funny message in the end saying basically, join us, we're awesome, so on and so forth. So it would make it much more easy for people to find a outfit they actually belong into. So, ReachCast, what do you guys think of these ideas? Are they enough? Are they good ideas? Are they bad ideas? Please do tell me. Also, to my new conglomerate impersonator, I'd like to say, I'm not even mad, bruh. I'm not even mad. That was actually kinda cute. Especially coming from Miller NC, as you guys can't even hold a candle against us. But then again, I guess you guys have the entire world domination preseason to prove me wrong. Also, this goes to you spandex wearing, alien worshipping, Venus sovereignty freaks. Come at us, bruh. Come at us. We have enough bullets for both of you. And with that said, I wish everybody good luck on the fields of Araxis. This is Wolf07 signing off.
You didn't call him Wolf 08 though.
Favorite part was the alien ship loving freaks. That was definitely my favorite part.
My favorite part is about the number of bears in your outfit.
What's that, Malorn?
Was that a question in there somewhere?
I don't remember. I don't remember if there was a question there or not. I always get to the end. I'm listening to him, and it just kind of like goes off the rails, and I forget about it. Was the question would have been at the beginning?
If we liked his ideas, which we'll answer.
Oh yeah. So he brought up
community question.
The community question last week was with outfit recruitment kind of going in game. That was one of our questions last week. Malorn is what should be on like the UI for it, and he was kind of saying that you should be, the outfit name, like a short description, general age, stuff like that. He was asking our opinions, so.
Well, I know that I'm certainly not done with outfit-related features. I think there's some various outfit recruiting stuff in the pipe somewhere. I can't really tell you more than that. Then I also know that one of the visions for WDS is to add leaderboards, both for personal and outfits, to show where the win is coming from, and just show who are the big players, who are the guys that are really making it happen on your team, and that's something we want to do for outfit recognition, maybe tie it into outfit points or something like that. So outfits have something to be proud of, and another way to advertise themselves as well.
Nice. I have the rest of our emails are brought to you by Creative Game Mechanics, aka sticking a Galaxy Bulldog through a shield in the biolab. Question number 1 from an email from Lord Mondando is, can resource revamp be brought forward at least to the test server as quickly as possible? If not, what impedes this? I guess that's directed at you, Malorn. We said that you were on the show tonight, so I think that's one of the questions.
What impedes resources is resources.
People.
Yes.
Hours, time. Yeah.
The other kind of resource. Really, all the features are prioritized, how we think appropriate for them to be prioritized, and most of those prioritization stuff I'm not really involved in. So if you disagree with the prioritization, then I'm not the person to talk to about it. But they are prioritized with various goals and objectives in mind. And in the case of the resource stuff, I believe that's basically where it's at, because there are other features ahead of it that use the same resources, basically. All the resources are unified here, and they're all shared, and we're just running out. So
I don't envy you guys as project managers, I'll tell you that much. Whoever they may be, if there are any. That's got to be a nightmare.
Yeah, that would be Luke. You may have seen him tweet a couple times.
That's Luke.
He's our design manager, yes.
Oh.
And he runs the roadmap stuff as well. But like we have basically the same coder who's working on WDS, who's working on missions, who's working on, I believe, directives as well. And then after all that, then he's got the resource revamp. So it's really just we got a guy who's really good at what he does, and we have to prioritize what he works on. So that's pretty much it.
Okay. Second question in the email is, do you agree with the statement core changes to game mechanics that expand past the possibility for metagames should be the focus of PS2 development for the foreseeable future? Could you explain your answer? Question mark.
Sorry, could you run that by me one more time?
Yeah, let me rephrase it, because the second part's not really necessary. Do you agree with the statement core changes to game mechanics that expand the possibility for metagame should be the focus of PS2 development for the foreseeable future?
Not exclusively. There's a lot of things that Planetside 2 needs to work on, and I don't think there's any one thing that deserves really all of its attention, at least not anymore. We had our performance push, I think, which was certainly worth all of our attention, because it's something the game really badly needed. And I mean, there's really a lot of things that we have to work on, and one of them is, new players, features around that. I mean, we just talked about outfits and outfit features to help bring the social environment, give it a little more life to it, make it easier for outfits to recruit. All those sorts of things are really important. And like the directive system, achievements are great. People love achievements. So that's something that gives people entertainment in the game. So it definitely goes well beyond metagame, doing revamps of various vehicles as well. We've got, the Liberator and Sunder in the pipe for a revamp. Probably the Lightning's in there. I don't know where that might be, but there's a long steady of class revamps and vehicle revamps that are being worked on. So there's certainly a lot of things that we do, and it's not all metagame oriented. I think metagame related stuff is certainly important, but having worked on tutorial and VR and some other stuff, I certainly understand the need for additional things to help out new players, to make it easier for new players to find outfits, like outfit recruiting related things to help them enjoy the game more, because that's just going to be more people for you to shoot and a healthier game. So, I mean, that's important too. Fresh content keeps people interested. So, we push out like the spawn changes, or we push out like a Galaxy revamp or something like that. I mean, people get really excited about that, and a lot of them come back to the game, and it changes the way the game's played. I mean, we misuse the word metagame pretty horribly, just like we kind of misuse Ghost Cap. But, that is a form of metagame when you introduce new weapons and when you introduce vehicles. It changes the way people play and respond, and it creates new tactics, like the Galaxies getting the spawn mechanic. Again, that's certainly changed tactics and evolved the metagame of Planetside quite literally, in the more true sense of the word. But, the outfit tactics have evolved. We have now spawning over top of the bases. We have people countering those tactics using, other aircraft. Liberators kind of have a new role now in Galaxy hunting. There's a lot of changes that result from that kind of stuff. So I would say no, like it really shouldn't be focused exclusively on metagame. There's a lot of important things for it to do.
Okay. Last question from his email is WDS as a concept something SOE is committed to no matter what, given its clear issues with existing demographic issues in game? Question mark.
I would say, we're pretty committed to it right now. It's something that is, it's always changing. I mean, the jump between preseason 1 and preseason 2, I have no doubt that preseason 2 was far more successful than preseason 1 even already. We've got I think really there's one major issue, that we have to get sorted, which is the whole, personal contribution rewards, encouraging some cheesy behavior that we don't really want. That's something that we're going to address. A lot of the other stuff we've taken out. I mean, we sort out if we can figure out the right population handicap, I mean, that would sort that. And then at that point, I think we're not really left too many other major issues that we would have with it.
Okay. Well, that's it for that email. I think Mark's got one more for you, and then we're going to be close to finishing up the show. So,
well, actually, it was an email from Azim, and he had some questions regarding running out of resources, which I think that you have already answered previously during the show. So we're not going to roll through it again.
Alrighty. Well, before I get to thank yous for the people in the chat room, I don't think I really got a chance to do this for the Clegg, but I did want to say to you and SOE in general, you guys don't have to come on here and explain yourselves to us or explain yourselves in the forums or Reddit or wherever else your venue you choose. But I appreciate you guys at least being transparent to the point, Smed, all the way up to Smed even included. You guys saying what your thoughts are, obviously expressing the fact that yes, all of us make mistakes and that you're working towards, making it clear you're working toward your objectives and for the best, the interest of the player base. So thank you for that. Obviously you play the game and you care about it, so we appreciate it, and we appreciate you coming on and listen to us bitch at you and listen to this chat room bitch at you, as well as the rest of the player base.
You didn't bitch that bad this time.
Well,
it's way worse with.
I say that in a broad spectrum, but it also includes forums and everything else. So, but we do appreciate you guys giving us feedback and taking the time to do it.
Oh, we're very happy to make you guys happier. We're here to make a fun game. We're not trying to screw anybody over. We're not trying to make your lives miserable. We're trying to give you something fun, and we're trying to make it better. And we think a lot. We think very deeply about a lot of these things. And sometimes it might not seem like it. It's easy to if you don't know what's going on behind the scenes, to kind of make a lot of assumptions. But I mean, please take my word for it. We think a lot about this stuff, and we really do have the best of intentions in making a great game that you guys love to play and tell all your friends about and keep playing for years. I mean, it's in everyone's best interest for that.
Okay. Yeah, I thank you personally as a player, and so cool. I'm glad. I hope everybody in the chat room feels the same. Same to Clegg. Sorry, man, we didn't mention you last week, but same for you. And yes, I know this list is going to be effed because Twitch is a piece of shit. But
and we had 70 people at one point.
Yeah, why don't we just thank the chat room in general rather than rolling through all those names? Otherwise, we're going to be here all night.
Oh man,
thanks chat room.
Yeah, I love some of these names though. Man, some people I've never seen here before. Probably won't never see again. But
just because you didn't thank them personally, they came.
No, I don't get
expecting a personal thank you from Torkz.
No,
they didn't get it, and now they're not going to come back.
I just want to say thank you, exactly. But I guarantee I won't see half these people next week. But thank you guys for coming in, and
thank you, Mr. Downer.
Mm-hmm. I like to take Tom's role since he's so upbeat tonight. So
I'm in a pretty good mood today, aren't I?
Yeah, I'm not. So, all right. Well, thanks again, Malorn. Thank you, chat room. Thank you, everybody. We'll have this show up tomorrow for those in the chat room. And take care, everybody. Have a good week.
We're not going to do our contact info,
done
dude.
Yet. Contact info.
People know where to get hold of us.
ReachCastShow.com. Email ReachCastShow@gmail.com. Call us 415-787-3224. Twitch, you're watching it. If you're in Twitch, it's twitch.tv/ReachCastShow. Twitter @ReachCastShow. I'm at Noxia. Mark.
I'm at the Deringer.
Adam.
Malphite's taken.
Malorn.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks for having me.
Do you want people to follow you? Already have people follow you on Twitter.
He doesn't need to tell people.
It's Zalorn. Xalorn.
Yeah, I know. All right.
Thanks.
Contact info that Adam wanted to skip.
That's it for the show. Screw it. I'll see you guys next week.
Peace out.
Thanks, everybody.
That's right, Sergeant. You made the call. All right, soldiers. You've done a great job here today. Let's get our stuff and get the hell out of here.